I don't have any more cheesecake. I'm Amy.
Okay. I don't know what I was trying to process that took so long, but I'm Techreal. Hello. Welcome to Side-ology, where we don't have any cheesecake, which, you know what, in my opinion, is the way it should be.
My favorite cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory is the tuxedo cream, and you can't prove me otherwise.
Well, my favorite cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory is none of them, because I don't like cheesecake.
See, that's the wrong perspective, Techreal.
Well, no.
If you think it's anything else, you're also wrong.
Well, no, I don't remember this podcast being so much about cheesecake propaganda and waving your fork in my face, but, like, here we are, I suppose.
Well, welcome to Side-ology. I'm Amy.
Hello. I'm a Techreal again. The podcast where we introduce ourselves twice. Yeah. I might have just dabbed. I regret everything. Cancel the podcast. I'm done. Nope.
Can't cancel the podcast.
When I dabbed twice in the same intro, I only dabbed once. I made a mistake. Leave. Anyways.
Also, when I said I'm Amy, you said I'm also, and then you stopped yourself. So are you also Amy?
Maybe. I don't know.
Interesting.
Can I choose to be? I can vibe with that.
Are you compensating for something? Because today we're compensating.
Continue your amazing segue.
I'm in a giggly mood today, I guess. We're talking about the Sash of Insecurity, or Roman for short. And
I like how that. Oh no. I just noticed something that I'll have to edit later. It's okay. Anyways, don't worry about it. Anyway, I was just gonna say I thought it was funny that it sounded like you referred to him as if we call Roman the Sash of Insecurity constantly. I like that. Sure. We just call him. What if we just started calling him? Hey, it's the Sash of Insecurity.
That would make me really sad.
That wouldn't be. That'd be horrible.
Insecurity. That would be terrible. That would kill me.
That's so unfortunate.
So, if it wasn't clear, we're deep diving into Roman today.
Yes, we are. Figuratively.
We've gone through Patton, and we've gone through Logan, and now it's time to hit Roman. So, figuratively.
We hit him with a bat?
I guess with his sash. I don't know.
We're just gonna beat him with his own sash.
It would be hard to get it off of him because he's got the thing on his arm. So you'd have to unpin that, and then it would take a little bit.
Side-ology, where we deep dive into characters and beat the crap out of them for their insecurities. Yeah.
Ideal. That's all this.
It's all it needs to be. But yeah, we're doing another side study today. This time on Roman, because as the title might imply, he's a bit of an insecure boy.
And we've already, even in just the research of Roman, we've really gotten deep into the thought of how Roman functions and where his motivations come from, and trying to look at it from a character perspective. It's a lot of insecurity. So we're really just opening the can with that.
The can? I never even processed how much insecurity he has, but when you think about it, it really all kind of falls into place, and you're like, wow, he's never been insecure a moment in his life. That's fun.
It's all very insecure. Also, as I say every episode, I'm going to say it every time just to be sure, we're not professionals.
No.
So the information that we're talking about is from my psychology clashes.
Your clashes with psychology.
Freud! Canceling the podcast. It's over. I'm done.
Anyway. I'm never going to stop thinking about Freud. That's going to be in my head forever now. I can tell you didn't process it the first time, and now it's stuck. It's stuck.
This book, we still need to name this book. I was talking about that in one of the episodes, but this has all of the information in it mostly. I have some other stuff elsewhere, but this has two of the biggest psychology classes I took, and it's just full of notes and full of stuff.
I dubbed this book Clash of the Classes.
Class.
Because now we said clashes a second ago. I'm trying to incorporate that now.
Name it in the comments. Y'all help me name this book. That's what we can too. How about that? Because I like that. I like that, but I think clashing, it doesn't really clash. It's just
it's a terrible name. I hated it the moment I said it.
Oh, okay.
I immediately said it with all the conviction, and then I was like, no, actually that sucks. But I'm not going to say that out loud until now. I'm Roman Sanders today, apparently.
I want to be Roman in the fact that I named the episode today.
Oh.
So I'm very excited about the clash, or the Sash of Insecurity. I'm very excited about that. Anyway,
you did good.
I'm gonna be a little egotistical.
Whoa, and you're wearing red today.
Because it's Roman. Anyway.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that's the big crux of this. Is all of the information that that we're talking about is from cited sources that we're going to put in the comments or the description of the episode, or from just notes from my psychology classes. I'm going to try to kind of connect where I can. So if you want to look stuff up later, you can. But most of the conversations we're having is just from our experiences in life and in therapy and in stuff like that. So
if you think we're professionals, that's your problem.
That's your problem. That's correct.
Yeah, we go out of our way every second of every episode to prove that we are not professionals.
Yes, and also just to preface, if you want to know how much of a Sanders Sides fan I am, for those that are listening on the podcast part of this, that I have like colored dots in the corner of my notebook that are the outline of the sides, like where they're sitting, and this class was like 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm very Sanders Sides coded. I don't know if that was clear, but here we are again.
It makes a lot of sense. Also, it's I mentioned it earlier. I find it interesting that like Thomas's color is pink. Is that like a canon consistent thing that he is represented by pink?
No,
because I feel like I've seen that a lot.
I think it's the only color that really isn't represented. That's kind of a baseline color. That's not like brown or black or white.
Yeah, I see it. And I mean, Thomas has said himself that he would consider himself like a lot more Roman than some others. Like he sees himself very Roman.
I've heard him say he's a Roman and a Pat McKinney.
That's fair. So like,
I've heard him say that.
In the sense that he sees himself as like partially predominantly Roman, having a color that's very close to red does service that idea.
I mean, that's an interesting perspective. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the intention. I'm just saying that's like a cool like draw that you can make between those two pieces of information.
You mix red and light blue and you get pink.
Probably get like trashy bark brown, but like, you know.
No, I think it's like, wait, red and blue make purple.
I like how my stupid brain could not think what red and blue mix together to make. Kill me.
No,
don't listen. I am an artist. I failed today. When I don't know what red and blue mix together to make, that is a failure.
No, that's not quite right.
What was I thinking? I think I was thinking green. I don't know. Shut up. I leave. I need to leave. I can't be here anymore. Oh my god, we're wearing red and blue. That's so relevant.
I wanted to wear red today because it was Roman.
I wore this today because I'm cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, I think it's funny that we're so distracted today. As
opposed to...
Fair point. Anyway, so coming back to it, we got to talk through what Roman represents. And the thing is, I found so much information about what Roman represents because he's so broad. He's kind of like Patton in the fact that there's like so much to talk about with Roman. So he's introduced as the fanciful side, all my dreams, my hopes, and my creativity. So that creativity piece is mentioned first. I don't really know what else to say about that.
I don't know. I mean, I know I talked to you about this. I find it interesting that I feel like for the first chunk of the series, they consistently refer to him as the fanciful side, and I feel like nowadays he's more consistently called the creativity side. Like maybe I didn't know if that was just me. I didn't know if that was just my perception on it because I at the time wasn't sure exactly the definition of fanciful versus now I hear creativity and I'm like, I know what creativity is. But like I feel like they more call him the creative side now.
You don't really hear the fanciful word very much, but I think fanciful is just like, it just reminds me of the word fantasy a lot, and it's just kind of like, when you're at your best, what does life look like, kind of thing. The best outcome that you could have is fanciful to me. So I think it's still the same thing, but I think because creativity and I don't know, there was another word I was trying to think of. Dreams, hopes and dreams, like that stuff kind of connects better, I think, is probably why the word fanciful went to the wayside.
That's fair.
But I still think it works.
Oh, I think it does too. I just know that, like, since he's been called creativity, I've had a better understanding of what he is. Also, if I may just go on a quick ADHD tangent that has almost nothing to do with nothing.
Well, you're on the ride, folks.
I'm on the right... Oh, I thought you were going to say you're on the right podcast, and I was about to be like, yes, I am.
You're on the right podcast.
Because that is what we do consistently. I was just going to say something very stupid for the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared fans out there. I find it amusing in retrospect that Roman, as well as the others, view Remus in such a negative light, and they don't want to accept that he is part of Thomas's creativity, and in that sense they are claiming that green is not a creative color. Anyways, epic joke. Anyway.
This is where the Hannah Montana, ooh.
Oh my god, no. Get that, like, commercial stinger.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, if our lives are just one big Hannah Montana episode, I am okay with that.
I think it's true.
I mean, I don't know if I have the best of both worlds. That's a bit of a broad claim for what my life is currently, but, like, it's the goal.
A limo out front.
That also is, I'm poor.
Oh. On that note, what else does Roman represent?
Oh my gosh. Well, he is also, in line with being the creativity, he is in charge of bringing Thomas inspiration. And he's very much characterized often as the Thomas's passion in general. So he's a lot of his motivation.
It's interesting because I was about to say, so his motivation. Mm-hmm. But, like, that episode talks about how the motivation isn't necessarily always present in Rowan. He's just the inspiration. So I'm wondering if motivation could be Patton and Roman in that respect.
I don't know about that fully. Well, maybe. I see the point you're making. I was going to argue and say that just because Patton, and I think also Logan to some extent, like, I think it was mainly Patton, was messing with that, doesn't mean that he's the motivation, but he was interfering with the motivation. Potentially.
That's interesting.
Like, so Patton's emotion about things was interfering with the motivation. I don't know if that means that Patton controls the motivation to some extent alongside Roman, or if that was just, like, a blockage in the way of the motivation that Roman could be bringing.
I think, because the next one we have is the word, in Why Do We Get Out of the Bed?
He titled it that?
That's what the episode's titled, folks.
Wow, there's a lot of characters in that. I never noticed.
But no, in the episode Why Do We Get Out of Bed in the Morning, mm-hmm. in the thumbnail, it has logic versus passion. Yeah. And I don't remember hearing, I couldn't really find a time where they've called Roman passion. But if you think about, like, if you're passionate about something, the motivation will follow.
Is he not often called the passion? I thought I've heard it at least in another episode.
When he's called passion.
Was he not referred to as passion in Moving On?
Maybe.
I feel like he would have. If any episode, it might have been that one. Just due to the fact that was very much like Roman's situation in that one.
I do know I looked this up very quickly.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's also very possible that I missed that one.
And you're supposed to be the studious one.
I'm never studious. Listen, we
established at the beginning of this podcast that you're the studious one and I'm the layman.
I know, and we're discovering those labels falter very quickly. Anyway, I have the book. That's all that matters.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a hoodie, and therefore I'm cool. Actually, I'm warm. But anyways.
Anyway. So, am I original? He's called creativity, but that's I didn't process that he was called creativity in the first episode. Mm-hmm. And then my negative thinking, he's referred to as the self-confidence and the ego, which is new.
Ego is a good word for Roman, I'd say.
Ego is such a good word for Roman because, like, I think the word, I know that the word ego is inspired by, I believe it's either Freud or, let me look through my book. Hold on. Don't mind me.
Oh, I'm minding you.
Are you minding me?
We're all minding you.
Are you all
Waiting
minding
for
me?
your information.
It's either Freud or the other one. It's Freud. He coined the word ego. And ego, but basically ego is the mindset of like kind of what Thomas is, and the fact that like he's the mediator and kind of like the conscious mind that you sit there and like process. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like an inflated ego, like a very like I'm the best. And I personally don't know where that was connected. I don't know why I'm trying to go into the definition of it if I don't know, but we really should have found out. But anyway.
We minded you for so long waiting for that information.
You minded me for so long that, well, that's the thing. That's where the word derived from. Oh. So now it like refers to as like if you have a big ego, then you're like, oh, well, I know the best.
You're very full of yourself.
Actually, that could be just the ego doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Oh, no, definitely not necessarily.
Maybe it is that, like, the fact that there's that mediator person and that idea of like your mindset of being able to process information. What am I trying to say? Words suck.
They do. I'm glad we have a podcast so we could use all the words.
Just the conscious mind and the part that you use to like process information, like Thomas basically. Thomas's character is this. So that inflated ego, if someone has an inflated ego, it would be more like I'm right and you're wrong mindset that would be inflated. So technically that works.
Yeah, it does.
So don't mind. Anyway, that really just blew my mind.
So much.
Thanks for letting me sit there and process that for me.
Always. Always, always.
Yay.
Oh my god. And the last thing that Roman is described as is Netflix Kids and Family, blocking out all the juicy stuff. I don't know why all of a sudden that was so hard to say. The juicy.
Don't say juicy in that context.
I'm not going to say the next part of that. I'm very patent. I'm not going to do it. I want to, but I won't.
We chill about saying that.
You can.
No, I'm not going to say.
Cool.
Anyway, I can feel
two people really desperately trying not to say beehole. Anyways,
I can feel every audience member saying it for us.
There's just an audience of people being like, beehole, say it.
Anyway, with all that being said, so he's a lot of different things. He's the creativity. He's the passion. So like any kind of motivation or any kind of like push to do something with his life that, oh my God, I love that. And then, which is interesting because that's not Patton, but I find that intriguing. But anyway, and then he's also the self-confidence and the ego. Thomas is like inner self-worth, probably. And then he's the good portion of creativity.
Oh yeah, the positive, the light side of creativity, the less controversial.
Yeah.
The safe, more or less. Which is interesting because there have been like moments where that's been less true later on. Because I don't think we have this in the episodes that we're going to be talking about, but or at least not in the context that we're talking about this stuff for. But like Roman has definitely increased in what he is willing to like say or talk about, especially in like cursing, which could just say that maybe he seems like maybe that just does not fall into what he personally thinks is bad and like something that like is Remus enough. But like it feels like it's been like increasing how much he's been doing that. Yeah. Even to the sense where like there's an episode where like, and this may either was a mistake or it's something that's less in universe and more just with Thomas, but I think there was an uncensored curse. Was there that Roman said?
No, but that was in the plushie episode.
Yes. Plushie episode. I love that episode.
That was I've been arguing that is Thomas growing, like the real Thomas Sanders growing as a creator.
Yeah.
And like being willing to like change his product to match. Oh, yeah. But also like in the same vein, I also think character Thomas could be growing in his content as well. Just the idea of like kind of accepting Remus a little more and in accepting Remus a little more, that shift starts to happen where Roman gets the stuff Remus would have. So but because they're split, that's a pretty big part of this too. But anyway.
Oh my god. And and also like in terms of like whether or not that choice of the uncensored curse has an effect on like character Thomas, it brings up that question of like, is it still that the videos that we're seeing are videos that character Thomas is making? Because that was the consensus at the beginning of the series, that he's making videos. So the thought is that what we're seeing is Thomas making a video to some extent. I never know how true that is in any given episode.
Arguably, though, I would say that...
Was that more of a season 1 thing?
Well, yes, but I also think that with us talking about the maladaptive daydreaming piece, I don't think the videos are real.
That's right. I forgot about that part of the theory.
I don't think they're real videos. I think they're implied to be as such, but I don't think they are.
That's fair. But even still, whether the videos are real or not, the idea that he's controlling them to some extent, or like he has some input in that, it's still a creative decision that character Thomas would be making, so therefore it still could mean something for character Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, there we go. So we worked a way around where that makes sense. Okay.
Circles, we made it. Boink.
What was that?
I just wanted to say the word boink.
I mean, anyway, that's a good word.
So we have some questions here that I love discussing.
Yes.
The idea of like, what part of the personality does Roman hold? Because like the mindset, the reason I asked this question in the first place is the idea that it seems like, well, for one thing, I was looking at my notes and seeing something called Style of Life with Alfred Adler. Okay. But we'll that's for another day. Mm-hmm. But basically, I felt like Roman could kind of structure the personality in a way with how he's kind of the drama and he's encompasses some of that humor. So I feel like he has a lot of it, but I don't think he encompasses all of it. And I mean, I know Thomas has described that all of the sides are his personality. So yeah.
Okay, I will say also real quick, I got confused for a second because I know we talked about this before recording, but when you asked me that, and I just sort of was like, that was mainly because my brain was like, we just went through all the things he represents. So it was like, didn't we answer that? And I was like, oh yeah, wait a minute. We're talking about like in terms of how like the personality as a whole. Yeah. It's interesting because I remember you had said that you thought that like there was a chance that he might be the entire personality. Is that correct?
I thought about it. The more I think about it, I don't think that's true because I think like Virgil's entire persona, as much as he is anxiety, I think there is a piece of Thomas's personality within the style of Virgil.
Yeah, and I'd say with Patton too. I mean, with all of them again, really. Yeah. Because the thing is, my whole thing with this is that I think Roman, due to the fact that he is the passion, holds not the personality as a whole, but his contribution of passion is what furthers the others' contributions into Thomas's personality.
Ooh.
That's my thing. So, like, if there was less passion, like, without the passion, Thomas wouldn't have the interests in the other things that the sides hold. And therefore, like, I guess, like, in that way, Roman, like, gatekeeps the personality in a sense. He holds on to the reins of the personality because his passion allows the personality to shine through based on his interests.
I love that.
Yes.
I hadn't thought of it that way before. That's awesome. Yeah. So the gatekeeper is a really good way to look at it because I felt like he held more of the personality than I previously had thought about now that we're deep diving into Roman. Mm-hmm. And these are all things like, as I say, if I was playing Roman, I would be thinking about, and that's going to add to, if I ever do play Roman again, I'm going to like think about that.
Hey, I've contributed.
Cool. Wow.
Wow. Also, going into our next question, which is something that we started last episode, like making a consistent thing, which is the question of what would happen if Roman ducked out. I think in that same line, just to start out with, because I think the passion is required for that personality to shine through, I think if Roman was to leave, in addition to other things, which we'll get to in a second, because I know you have your whole theory that we mentioned in the previous episode of what would happen if Roman ducked out, I think that lack of passion would make it so that he, like character Thomas, does not have the sort of ability to express those other parts of his personality in the same way. So, like, he wouldn't, Thomas loves a good dad joke. He wouldn't be telling dad jokes because that's something he's passionate about. But without that passion, he wouldn't have that drive to let that shine through. And so forth with the other sides.
And arguably, because humor takes a certain element of comedic timing, if Roman ducked out, I don't think the jokes would land.
Oh, no. Well, I don't think he would tell jokes at all, even. Because he wouldn't... Because, again, I think telling comedy, requires a certain sense of, passion for wanting to tell a joke, passion for wanting to make people laugh. You know, a passion is a big part of a lot of things you do. I mean, again, motivation, I know we mentioned, is, part of what Roman is. So motivation is lying behind a lot of those decisions and a lot of those desires to do anything. So,
I almost think it would be harder, but I don't think it would be impossible because I think Patton does hold some motivation in the fact that he is consistently thinking about other people and consistently trying to work towards the betterment of other people. Maybe it would be less of him fighting for the benefit or his own self benefit, which is interesting to compare to Janus later.
But I will say you can have the moral desire to want to do things without having the motivation to go through with it.
Oh, damn.
I could have the desire to want to give my time to spend in a soup kitchen, but I may not have the motivation to go through with it.
So are you saying that in this whole time with losing my motivation, they walked right past Roman when Roman was the one that was actually the problem?
I don't think so necessarily. I still think Patton was getting in the way of Roman in that regard. I don't think that he was the issue there. I think the motivation was there, but Patton was kind of skewing it.
Wow. Because they made it look like Patton was the motivation. But honestly,
is that what they implied in that episode?
That's what
I don't remember.
Maybe.
I know he said his heart wasn't in it. But I think, I guess that is partially...
Passion. Whoa.
That is partially passion. I mean, I know some of the other things that we have to say regarding the episodes in a little bit. There are some relations we can make between Roman and Patton. So... They might be quite hand in hand. I mean, Roman and Patton have always been a pretty decent duo. I mean, not fully, not comparatively to Virgil and Patton for the longest time, or Roman and Virgil. Wow, they both really get along with Virgil. I mean, less Patton now, but Virgil really just knows how to get along with people. He doesn't, but he does.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I think, that's a whole. I almost went off into that topic. We're going to talk about that later.
We can't get into Virgil and Patton just yet. That's a whole other episode.
I have many opinions, and we'll get there. But no, I think it's interesting. So there's the heart, and then there's the passion, and I think we're having trouble separating those two.
Yeah, because they are quite similar.
So if the passion isn't there, but the heart is, motivation doesn't happen, and it doesn't go, which is what we just talked about.
Yes.
Passion isn't there, but you can think longingly and be like, oh man, I love that person, I respect that person, but you don't have the passion. On the flip side, same thing. If you didn't have the heart for it, but you had the passion for it, I feel like that's almost depression as well.
I think it's a similar effect for different reasons, yes.
For a different reason. I think it's just if your heart isn't in it, if you're I don't want to actually, if you really want to do something, but maybe your heart's been trying for so long, and your heart's getting weary kind of thing, then you don't necessarily have as much push to do it. So I think the combined effort of Roman and Patton is that motivation.
I can see that. I can see, because you do kind of need both.
I think you need both.
Okay, so interesting. So in that same way, so Roman ducking out would reduce motivation and reduce that, but not just because he's the only piece needed, but because you need both.
You need both.
You need both.
And so that,
okay, fascinating.
Then that, I don't know if we've actually explicitly said it yet, but I think if Roman ducked out, Thomas would get depressed.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it briefly in the Inside Out episode.
I think, yeah, because the fact of Roman ducking out means he's lost that passion to be able to motivate himself for things, which is a very real part of depression.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple capacities. Where you're interested in doing something, but you can't actually bring yourself to do it, or the things that have interested you in the past aren't interesting anymore.
Nobody can see what I'm doing, but I'm slowly raising my hand and pointing at myself as Amy is describing these things that relate very much to my life.
Love depression.
It's so great. There's nothing better than wanting to do things and then feeling no motivation to do things.
But that, on top of the fact that he's the ego and the self-confidence, as much as Roman is here right now, we're going to talk about that, but as much as that's the case, Roman does give Thomas that boost of confidence to be able to do something. I mean, as we've heard about going on stage, how Virgil backs off and Roman goes on stage and everything's fine.
Yeah.
That's a real life experience that I know I experienced. So whenever I hear that and accepting anxiety, I'm always like, oh, me, because you're so nervous and then you get on stage and it's gone. It's absolutely gone. Yeah. You're fine on stage. But that's because Roman is giving him that confidence boost to push forward. So if he didn't have that confidence boost,
he'd probably have a lower sense of self-worth.
That's depression.
Because how much could the other sides really pick up with that? Like pick up after that lack? Because Logan could very logically state why you're technically worth existing, but that only goes so far if you can't physically feel that. You can't feel it internally.
Because then Patton would make you feel bad. You'd sit there and be like, but you're worth it. You're doing this. You're so worth it. You have this much potential, blah, blah, blah. And then your immediate thought is well, I'm not living up to that potential.
Oh. Patton is a little tiny bit that toxic positivity that I used to be and don't want to be.
Remember that?
I do. Virgil would just be having a panic attack in the corner, feeling this all, and he'd be the one who'd be like, we're not worth it, oh god.
If Roman wasn't there, I feel like Virgil would contradict everything Logan and Pat said.
Yeah, because there would be that fear that isn't being alleviated by Roman's confidence boost.
Yes.
Oh.
And this is in the sense of Janus not being accepted. Or being very, very minimally accepted, because if Janus were there, Janus would wave a finger in all their faces and be like, fuck off.
Oh, he'd yell at everyone. But that's the thing, though. Even if he did that, even as accepted as he is right now, there'd still be that slight amount of doubt in being that's, are we just lying to ourselves?
Yeah.
Because that's a thought that sometimes has crossed my mind when I feel like crap, and I'm trying to boost myself up, and I'm am I just saying that, or is it actually true? I don't know. Am I just lying to myself by saying that just to make myself feel better?
In the therapy that I've done, I honestly think that I've just gaslit myself out of some things.
Fake it till you make it, sort of thing.
Sometimes, literally, it's kind of funny, but yeah.
In that case, wait, would Janus actually be a bigger help than we think? Because if you fake it till you make it.
Oh, yeah. But if Roman isn't there, and Janus isn't fully accepted, or you don't, try to listen to him more often, then you're going to get depressed.
Wait, also, I just realized something. With our Janus fake it till you make it thing, did we just, prescribe repression? Because isn't that not just, didn't they, literally say that in an episode? Fake it till you make it? That was, Patton said that, and then didn't Thomas say, oh, we're back to repression?
Fake it till we make it. That's stealing with intrusive thoughts.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's sort of repression-y, though. You know what I mean? Because that was, specifically said in that exact context of fake it till you make it, and then being back to repression, and that's not the greatest.
I don't think it's repression. Is the fake it till we make it in dealing with intrusive thoughts? Now I'm stuck.
I'm fairly sure. No, you said that. That sounds correct. Because it was the idea of, pretending he doesn't have these thoughts. And just, trying to operate under that. And just be we don't have these thoughts. Which is the same idea of fake it till you make it. I think they even said fake it till you make it.
I think that's different because you're trying to pretend everything's fine until it is.
That's exactly what we're talking about here, of the idea that he has no motivation in pretending he's fine until he is.
Hold on.
It's the exact same thing.
Hold on. Hold
We just prescribed repression.
No. I see the difference. There's a difference. So, like, I do. Because in this sense, like, with that, you have to look at those thoughts and recognize, like, actually, it's not faking it till you make it. It's like looking at them and being like, this is okay. Like, this is just a thought. You have to literally prescribe it that way. And that's what Logan said right after that. He was just like, you have to be okay with them and just keep going. Just remember that it's okay and remember that you're okay. Whereas for this other situation and trying to, like, bring you to a space, I mean, maybe the term fake it till you make it is literally, No, because I'm trying to, I know what I'm saying, but I can't put words to it.
No, yeah.
Like, fake it, I wouldn't say you're faking anything, which is probably why Logan was like, no. So I arguably wouldn't use that phrase anymore. I think it's, you have to look at whatever it is that you're seeing, whether it's the intrusive thoughts or the mindset that you're not capable of going to that space or whatever, or going to a better place or what have you, and literally looking at it and being like, this is not true, or this is not a problem, or this is not, like, you have to keep convincing yourself that it's okay. So it's not necessarily faking it. Okay. I think the faking part is forcing Virgil to, like, put a smile on and sit in the corner and be like, you're fine, sit the fuck down. He would have to fake it till he makes it. But I don't know. That's so interesting. Yeah. Maybe that phrase is dumb.
Maybe. I don't know.
Are you still here?
What, the audience?
Yeah, the audience. Are you still?
As we both just really intense analyze if we just prescribed repression or not.
I feel like that's the deepest debate we've ever had on here. That was like, I'm coming out of it like, whoa.
If people have heard all the stuff we have to say so far and haven't fled, I think that, I mean, that was pretty on brand.
So, to an extent, yes and no. Yeah. I don't think you have to fake it. But I think with Janus, obviously you're going to have that doubt. I think people who have that confidence, I don't think there's a single person in this world who doesn't doubt themselves even just a little bit.
That's fair.
Even the most confident person, there's no way they're not doubting themselves even just a little bit.
I like to hope that's the case, because some people seem it.
Well, you don't know what's going on in their head.
No. You keep quoting Inside Out at me? Oh, you're allergic to my realization, are you? It's my favorite thing is when you sneeze at an opportune time, being like, you're allergic to that specific thing that just happened. I do it all the time.
No, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm still in the park that, like, if Roman ducked out and Janus wasn't fully accepted, depression.
Yes. I still think even if Janus was accepted, he'd only be able to pull it back so much.
It really depends on how much he's accepted. Because right now I think he's just accepted to the extent that Thomas will hear him a little bit. But I don't think it's a matter of, like, he'll listen all the time.
True, but he'd still be in a position where he doesn't have the motivation or the creativity to create things, which is a big part of his life. And lacking that would make it hard for him to fully accept where he currently is and be happy with that. Because I know for me, when I feel really gross for a while and I don't make things, I feel worse because I look at, like, my accounts or I look at something and I'm like, I haven't made stuff in a while. That's so gross. Like, I know it's valid, but, like, also I really want to be making things right now, and it sucks that I can't. And you get kind of in that loop of, like, oh geez, like, that part of me isn't there right now, and I need that part, and I don't need it, but I do need it.
Maybe. I wonder if depression is a skewed Janus. Like, Janus connecting dots and being like, okay, well, this and this and this happened. So if all of these things are true, then I am not, like, he's
like drawing conclusions where there shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's just as much Virgil as Janus.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense that he's said that, like, he's not, like, the most honest person because sometimes he's wrong about, like, the conclusions that he draws based on the anxiety. I feel like that's more Virgil than Janus, personally.
Yeah.
But, like, because we've seen Janus is a mental health king.
Yeah, we're going to have to come back to this. I want to, like, talk about this in the future because that's an interesting thought. I need to think about this more.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject about, like, you know, just thinking about, like, the sides ducking out is always so fascinating. And, like, the random I'm glad we've made this, like, a staple of these side study episodes right now, because it's such it's a fascinating topic that I know we've talked about plenty of times before this podcast existed. It's just it's an interesting thing. It's so
yeah, I want to talk about that one more, just thinking about how Janus... I wonder if that'll be more helpful when we get to the Janus episode.
Maybe.
Huh. Anyway, we probably need to keep moving because that's something I'll solve right now.
Oh my god. But yes, now we get to go through the episodes and look at Roman's existence. That's my introduction to that. I've never introduced this part before, I don't think, so I got scared.
Well, good. So... the only way to start talking about Roman is starting with Am I Original, I think.
That is a very Roman-centric episode in its core.
I would argue that Am I Original is the baseline of his entire character arc and his entire personality.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Entire insecurity. Now, should we go define what the word insecurity is?
Yes. I didn't have plan for that, so my brain is not processing how to do that.
No, I fully got you. I already did it. I got you, bro. I just was wondering where we should go next. You can explain. I duped you a little bit, yeah. So the idea of insecurity, we keep talking about we keep talking about Roman being very insecure. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. Insecurity is based on a WebMD article that we're going to link below. Insecurity is a feeling of inadequacy or not being good enough and uncertainty, which produces more anxiety. Throughout the time that we see Roman is doing everything in his power to please Thomas and to get him to listen. And I feel like a lot of the sides are doing that anyway, but some sides like Patton are going to be listened to by Thomas because they are the core of his good and bad. He's trying to be a good person, so he stays there. Roman is consistently fighting for that attention in that way. So, I mean, as we saw in Am I Original, the entire moment where he's like, I can't let you down.
Oh, yeah. He's very scared of not being enough for Thomas and just the others. He's scared of not doing what he needs to do, fulfilling his purpose.
Yeah.
And, like, what that might mean for him and, like, his existence, I suppose.
So, with that being said, I did some research in my book that shall be named soon, I guess. I think we named it.
Shall be named.
The to be named book.
I already love that as the name, just the book that shall be named.
The book that shall be named.
The unnamed book of psychology.
I mean, I want to know. I want to know what the audience thinks.
Oh, of course. I'm just throwing out suggestions as I see them.
No, that's great. So in my notes, I found that Carl Jung talked about this thing called complexes, which are a pattern of emotions, memories, perceptions, and wishes that are in the personal subconscious. So just like a continual pattern of something that leads to, I don't want to say a disorder, but like a method of coping or functioning in life that just is consistent. So with that, Alfred Adler later saw that theory and went, bruh, that actually works for this. So I'm going to put it on this and call this a superiority complex. And superiority complexes a superiority complex is the overcompensation of a feeling of inferiority. So because Roman gets to a point where he's consistently feeling inferior or he's consistently fighting for that approval and that attention, I think he's developed sort of a superiority complex in the fact that he's trying to one-up himself all the time, which gives him that consistent pattern and perception of being better than he is, question mark,
Which
being,
also, I'm sorry.
or just like stepping on people's toes, trying to like say that he's, I mean, yeah, like I just
Accidentally.
accidentally, and because I'm Roman and that's how we're going.
No, I said like I just did because I stepped on your toes in the conversation because I was about to break in with something.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
My bad. No, I was just gonna say the thing that I forgot. So.
Forgot.
No, I forgot it right this moment. So.
Oh,
I remembered it now. I remembered it. It was gonna be. I got so sad. I was like, I just interrupted, and now I forgot what I interrupted with. Crap.
That's right.
No. The superiority complex can also be, in building himself up is why he also tears some people down, which is why he at many times has used nicknames towards, sides like, Logan and Virgil. Very sort of put-downy names to sort of like push them down and push himself as superior.
Yeah, and think about that, like that in trying to compensate with that lack of approval, he's trying to give it to himself by putting other people down and raising himself up.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I almost feel like I'm analyzing this from the lens of Roman being a human and having a full personality. That's why I see the superiority complex. But because he's ego, honestly, it makes sense why Roman has such a massive superiority complex.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, I mean, he's, and also because Thomas is a creative person, and he's just consistently praised for his art in general, whether the character Thomas actually has a YouTube video series or not. Like, the idea that he consistently gets praised for that, Roman's going to be a bit have that superiority and that high, self-esteem that may be lower on the inside because he's still trying to reach for that approval.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Roman, you poor boy. Oh my gosh. And that's only the tip of the iceberg for his inferiority.
Because the other part of this, that's the thing, the other part of this is he has a low self-esteem. Because as much as he's trying to get that compensation from other people and trying to get that validation, he really doesn't seem to have any kind of, when it comes to trying to give himself that approval, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that superiority complex with the inferiority gives him a low self-esteem.
And as we see throughout, like he starts to feel less like he has the people around him that are like giving him that sense of self that he needs.
Yep.
Which we'll see as we're like going through the episodes.
That's why I say I think Am I Original is the baseline for his entire arc and is such an important episode, period, in the Side series.
Yeah.
Because it's so... He's just worrying that he isn't enough. You can see that superiority complex where he's trying to put other people down because they're trying to give their opinions on the videos, and he's like, "Fuck no, just shut up. I have it." And yeah, it's so. I love that episode.
Oh my god, it is a really good one. Next episode we have listed is accepting anxiety. So what's the important thing with Roman there?
I mean, you were the one that brought this one in.
Well, thanks. I tried to cue you up. Anyway.
And I'm gonna throw it right back at you.
How dare you? The one time I am offended.
Take it.
Oh, okay. Anyways. Bully, you are Roman. Anyway.
All right.
Now you need to come up with a creative nickname. Anyways, I defy you to do it.
I am the one who must not, or is not named.
What? That's not even what I meant. I was like to come up with a put-down nickname for me, because that's what Roman does.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Oh! How creative. Anyway.
I tried.
Accepting anxiety. Jeez. Accepting anxiety is an important part of Roman's development because it is the beginning of him accepting Virgil as a valid part of Thomas. It's the first real dose that we get of him, at least in my recollection, of him acknowledging Virgil's contributions with Thomas. Because I know he mentions... I'm sorry?
Another side's contribution.
Is that really the first time any other side?
I guess he did that kind of in growing up to an extent, but he was doing that because the group was doing that. This is the first time that Roman actually really just like sat down and was like, here's why I think you're valid.
Yeah.
Because growing up, he didn't really do that. He just kind of like nodded, I think.
That's fair. Yeah. It's really a turning point for like his relationship with Virgil and like how that's developed, and now they're just kind of like real buddy-buddy. It's really cool. I really like that like pairing of that like friendship. It's a really good vibe, and it's nice to see like the building block of that start. The building block, the one building block. It's only a single block apparently.
I mean, I think both of them, because Virgil's very insecure as well, I think there's moments they just understand each other better than any other sides do. I think.
I know it is the interesting part is how much like their insecurities bond them. It really is like trauma bonding to some extent. Of just like him seeing a lot of himself in Virgil and the fact that he has like issues with self-worth, and realizing that Virgil also deals with that quite consistently, more so compared to any other side, I'd say.
Yeah.
Other than Patton, I suppose, because Patton also has some self-worth issues, but like not nearly to the extent of Virgil.
It's not the same though. It's not because he's trying to vibe or like grab other people's approval. I think it's more of there's a weight on his shoulders of being something.
Yeah.
And he's not living up to that. And I think that might be the same for Roman. I mean, I guess that is the same.
Very Roman, I think, too, to some extent.
But I think the approval of that for Roman is from Thomas directly, whereas with Patton, that's just who he's supposed to be.
That's true. With Patton, it's like he just needs to get the job done.
He is the job.
Yeah.
Whereas like Roman is like, is this good? Does this work? Yeah.
That's an interesting part too, because Roman really does not. It never ends at just the one thing, because there's also all the other. It's also about like the creative aspect of like making things and if they're good enough.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Weird.
Oh my god. But yeah.
So yeah. So his character, he's slowly learning to accept other people or other sides of him. And then I think we have moving forward next. And I think moving on is a moment where Roman is just in intense denial of things going on.
Fair. I mean, a lot of the characters in that episode are for a good chunk.
Yeah.
Not Logan.
Patton for sure, but I think Roman and Patton are the big ones. I think Virgil is more on Logan's side in the fact that they need to move on and they need to keep going, but like Roman and Patton are both very like blissfully trying to ignore everything.
Yeah, Virgil notices the issue right away, comparatively, because he immediately knows that like, oh, we fucked up.
I don't have proof of this right now, but I think you can see it in that episode. There's a shot of Virgil looking at Logan and Patton, and I think kind of hesitating, being like, I don't think we should do that. Like, kind of like, no, we shouldn't. I don't have proof of that, but I'm pretty sure it's in there because I've watched that episode a few times.
I would believe it, honestly. Because especially, like, I mean, just talking to myself and, like, you know, just briefly just about Virgil stuff, but, like, I can tell when I'm deciding to do something that I know might spark my like anxiety a little bit.
You can feel it.
I can feel it, and there's that moment of like, I know I probably shouldn't do this because it's gonna mess with me, but like, let me give it a shot and see what happens. Right. So it's like, so there could be that angle of it.
Then you look back later and you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Like minutes, not even later, just like in a minute, I'm like, oh geez, I shouldn't have.
To bring it back around, Roman and Patton had the motivation. Virgil didn't. So that motivation is pushed by them, not Virgil.
That's fair. They were teaming up in that episode as like the motivation crew of like trying to get Thomas to do the thing.
Crazy.
Ooh.
But yeah, I think for Roman's character, it's very interesting that he lived in denial and he tries to kind of, I mean, that's a very big thing for like fantasy is you don't really think about how to get there. You just get there. You want to get there. So like he's kind of like, I mean, if I were analyzing Roman's character as an actor, I'd sit there and be like, he's a little ditzy. He's a little not
I'd say so.
not there. He's not all there. Sometimes he's kind of like floating.
Floating is a good word, I think, for Roman.
Floating fantasy, I think of like clouds. And I think of just everything's happy-go-lucky, hunky-dory. And then when it's not, there's no winning on Christmas.
There's no winning on Christmas. I want to get that, like, embroidered in very, like, fancy text on a pillow with, like, nice Christmas things and, like, a snowman with a frown. Just, like... Just like a really, like, I want it to look like something you'd get from a store, but then it's just like the most depressing thing you can read on a Christmas. And I'd bring it out only around Christmas too.
I would love to have There's No Winning on Christmas on like a hoodie or something.
Yeah.
I'd wear that.
I'd have it next to like another pillow that's just like, Rudolph thinks you're great or some shit. I don't know what that's the worst pillow I've ever heard.
Rudolph.
Rudolph thinks you're great. And just like the hoof and a thumbs up. Ew. Well, now I need to make these. Oh god. This is terrible.
Hey, Tech Girl, should we have a Mind Palace moment?
Anything that will erase this image from my brain, yes please.
Okay.
Wow.
Hi, Fatten again. No better at playing the ukulele than before. But what happened to the frog that barked illegally? He got towed. That's the whole thing. That's it.
And that was a moment. It's funny because Fatten was a frog that one time. Ugh, yuck. I've really gotten into the habit of saying ugh, yuck. I'm really entering my Goofy era.
I mean, I know a guy who is friends with Goofy. So.
Oh. I was like wondering where you were going with that. I was like, you know a guy. What, Goofy? Because that's who I just mentioned. Oh, okay, cool.
I know
Goofy. Pretty neat.
Uh-huh.
Tell him to tell Max that I say hi. I think Max is pretty neat. Oh, right, is he behind you? Is he on the floor? Oh. From my perspective, you looked down at the floor as if he was like dead on the floor. Fun fact you didn't know, guys. Right before this podcast, Amy killed Goofy.
I killed Goofy. Wow. Cancel the podcast. No.
Cancel it because Amy killed a beloved Disney character. Good. How dare you? You better leave Roger Rabbit alone.
Oh, I will.
I like how that's not even like one of the first 15 cartoons I'm sure you'd think of in general anyways. But Roger Rabbit's my boy. Huh?
He tastes too funny.
He tastes too funny?
He's a funny guy.
Tastes?
Anyway.
What are you gonna make rabbit stew out of him? What? We're not gonna segue out of it. No, we are. Anyways, Can Lying Be Good is our next episode up for scrutiny. Not scrutiny, I don't know. I'm distracted. Right. Can Lying Be Good is the next episode we have. Because it's an interesting point in Roman's character that in this episode, even before Janus is revealed, I mean obviously way before Janus is revealed because that's at the end of the episode, Roman is showing an interesting interest in lying. I was like, there's no other better word for it.
I mean, he does tend to lean into it, yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because later on, as we'll get into, he's so against lying and so against Janus. But for this chunk right now, he is surprisingly okay with it and encouraging it even. So that's something we're going to keep on the back burner for a minute before we get back into it another episode from now. So
I think that plays into, to add on to that, I think it plays into the idea that he's just kind of floating through and he's willing to cut corners.
Yeah.
If it's necessary like that.
Yeah. The ends always justify the means type of mentality. Like, as long as we can get to our passion.
Which is why Roman and Logan clash so hard.
True.
Honestly. Because Logan is very much about, like, how specifically do we get there? And then Roman's like, I want to get there.
Man, you could almost say that Logan and Roman getting along really isn't their jam. Which is funny because our next episode is Crofters.
I know.
Stop looking disappointed in me.
I know this has happened like 3 times, but we're canceling the podcast.
What?
That was rough.
What? No, it wasn't. It was a jam pun, not a dog pun.
It was actually pretty good. I'll be honest. I'm just jealous.
It was a pretty lame pun, to be honest. I could have tried so much harder.
We literally switched.
We switched entirely. We both traded arguments.
I need you to know, this is very random, but I want everybody to know that, because I've been working at Halloween Horror Nights recently. They had a meeting, and they tell jokes in the meeting. They tell really dumb jokes. I got to tell the dumb joke, and I used one of Thomas's jokes. I don't know where he got this, but I learned it from Thomas.
Yeah.
The one about the thesaurus. Have you heard that one?
Probably. I don't know.
I used it at the thing. Basically, I went to the store and I bought a thesaurus, and I took it home and all of the pages were blank. I have no words to describe how angry I am.
I do remember this joke. That's a good joke.
I need you to know the resounding, like, laughing / oh my god, from the entire crowd of scare actors was my favorite thing that I've experienced in a while.
See, I thought the joke was going to be, which dinosaur was the most literate? The thesaurus. Which I'm pretty sure is an existing joke.
That's...
I can't have come up with that. I refuse to believe it. Thank you.
Oh, I love that so much. But
trust me, when I invent a joke, you'll know it's crap. I've done so.
To segue back to what we were talking about, I love the dumb jokes, and I want them in my vocabulary all the time.
They're so good.
Yeah.
So Crofters.
Crofters, the only jelly I'll put in my belly.
Oh my god.
So Crofters is the one where Thomas is like, well, Roman, we didn't expect any real character development. What is happening?
That's a beautiful line. It's one of my favorite lines in the series, quite honestly.
Roman is literally watching someone get something based on the work that he did, and also not getting that thing.
Ooh.
Because the song was inspired by him, and then he watches as it just completely gets rerouted to Logan instead of him. And that's brought up later. I know it is. I think I was watching, what was the episode I was watching where they talked about that? I was watching Return to the Jam.
Oh. Makes sense that we brought back around during the other Jam episode.
Oh, yeah. Because he's sitting there, like, Logan's eating the Crofters, and someone's just like, a singing spokesman, no less. And he goes, a song that I proposed. Like, he's so bitter about it. He's so bitter about it.
This poor guy.
So you can see that insecurity very strong, and you can see that inferiority very strong.
Especially because he's comparing himself with Logan in that episode a lot.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, putting himself against him and be like, who is the more popular side?
I think also, like, that's pretty clear in Why Do We Get Out of Bed in the Morning, too.
Yeah.
It's the same type of mindset, because both of those episodes are very Logan and Roman-centric. But, you can see that insecurity and that, like, superiority complex just fall apart. The superiority complex completely just fall apart as he watches someone get something he wanted. And then he's like, well, what am I even trying for? And then it gets in his head. So, yeah, he copes with comedy. You can also see moments in that episode where he kind of like, I mean, the big moment we were talking about is the one where he came up, he said, oh, the angst just came up organically. Organic? Like Crofter's organic? Like a pun? And he goes, excuse me. And then he has this whole drama moment to try to, like, compensate for that.
Does he go, excuse me?
Huh?
Does he go, excuse me? I don't remember. Yeah. Excuse me. Oh, that's beautiful.
And arguably, he knew what he was doing that whole time.
Oh, I'm sure. No, that was fishing for compliments. Like, please notice me.
Yeah, he was literally, like, Thomas was saying, you knew we were in a video, buddy. And he's like, oh, yeah, I did know that. He only did that to make the audience laugh.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, he does have, and this comes in the next episode we're going to talk about, too, but he does have an emerging pattern of coping with comedy, of, like, trying to, like, push down the grossness and be like, haha, jokes, which I think is very, like, I think I mentioned it earlier, there's, like, a slight other similarity between him and Patton in the sense that they both tend to cope with comedy and try to, like, you know, bludgeon down the bad vibes with jokes and you know, silly things.
That's so interesting because like we talk about how Virgil and Logan don't smile very much. The only sides that smile are faking it a lot of the time.
Oh my god, that hurts. That's a painful revelation. Ooh. Ooh, that sucks. Oh, that sucks so bad. Oh, I want to leave. I can't deal with that type of... Oh.
But anyway.
I know I'm smiling through this right now, but there's pain inside. Relevant. Oh my god. That's so painful.
But I think there are, again, like just like Patton, there are moments of true raw joy.
Of
in Roman, I think it's just there are a lot of moments where he fakes it.
Yeah.
Well, that is very interesting. He's getting a lot of, and also, we'll get to putting others first, but I think there's a lot of moments in putting others first where Roman is looking to Patton for support.
Oh, yeah. You know, I never realized, I knew there was a connection there, but they are really quite connected, those two.
Arguably, Patton calls Virgil his son. I would argue that Roman is his son.
You think? Well...
Think about it. Their characteristics are they're very similar in how they, in how, like, they cope with things.
That's fair. Patton was the one to go check on Roman, too. Like, he was the only one that went to go check on him.
Virgil just wants, Patton wants Virgil to be his son because Virgil is... Well, I think everybody is Patton's son.
I was going to say, I think that's why I had trouble dissecting that idea, because I was like, we don't know that, like, everyone's not his son. Like, he is called Virgil his son by name, but, like, we don't know that he doesn't feel that way about the rest.
I would argue that the only one who really accepts it is Roman.
That's fair enough. I can see that. Virgil would be less willing to accept it because he doesn't want to be, like, patronized.
And then Logan doesn't want to be patronized at all.
Of course, yeah, no.
So I think
Janus wouldn't believe him. And he wouldn't... And Remus is not his son.
We'll get to that, but I think Patton has a whole different kind of respect for Janus.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I don't think it's son energy. I think it's, like, partner energy. Not like... Hold on. Whoa. Hold on. Hold on. Mostly people will.
Mostly people, huh? You got me real excited. I was like, whoa, really?
Hold on. I'm saying there is like an element of equal.
Equal, yeah. Being on the same sort of like level as each other.
Yes, like.
But not that he looks down to the others.
Peer. That's what I was trying.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Peer. But all the other sides, I think Patton does kind of look at as like, I'm protecting you guys.
Interesting. So that I guess in that sense that like he sees the other ones as needing to be protected, but he sees Janus as fairly self-sufficient.
Yes, and then he just doesn't think about Remus. He gets scared.
He just doesn't think about everyone's his son. Janus is his like friend partner, and Remus is the dog outside barking all night. Remus is the rat that's in the house that's just like eating all the cheese.
Yeah.
Keeps nibbling at his cookies, and he's like, "Dang it!"
Well, yes. So we've got to get back on track because we're running out of time.
We do.
But yeah, I think Roman is the one that really accepts the idea that Patton is the dad, even though he won't admit it. He won't admit that because he's got a superiority complex. But I think there's a little bit of connection there.
I see that.
So SVS is also a very big Roman moment.
It is.
You want to get it? You have interest. Go ahead.
I always have interest in SVS. Well, we have another instance of Roman showing an affinity for wanting to lie, which again is very interesting given where he ends up character-wise, even at the end of this episode, but also leading into the next. But it's interesting again seeing Roman having a desire to want to lie. It's again, like you said, that idea of floating and really wanting to look at what he can accomplish rather than how to get there. It's very ends justifying the means. And I find that very interesting for Roman's character whenever I realize that, like, wow, he really did kind of want to lie a lot at that time. I mean, also, we don't have it on the list, but, like, I don't remember specifically if in the episode, it might have been Virgil who was spawning it, but like, I know he was lying a lot and flirting with social anxiety. Did Roman push any of that, or was that all Virgil? Like pushing him to lie about, because what was it like, or maybe Thomas was just doing it independent of them, where Thomas kept like playing things off, like getting the carrots, like acting like he was just walking towards the trash, like lying to the guy in the bathroom. Was that all like Thomas, and then like Roman was telling Virgil about it after, or were any of them like telling him to do so a lot of the time?
I would argue, I haven't seen that episode in a minute.
It's been a while.
I think Roman was pushing him to seem like giving off that cooler energy than normal. And I think Virgil was trying to make things more realistic.
Okay.
So with that, I think Roman was the one encouraging the lying and Virgil wasn't. Because I don't think there's ever an instance where Virgil will encourage Thomas to lie.
Which is interesting, because was it not Roman? No, it must have been Roman, I thought. Well, it was Roman in that episode who was chastising Virgil, or chastising Thomas about the lying.
Oh, yeah, because Roman, like, I almost would argue, I can't think of a specific instance where that happened, but I can see Roman being, like, contradicting himself a lot, because he's trying to seem like he knows more. Remember that idea where I said he's kind of ditzy and he kind of floats through the clouds and stuff?
Yeah.
When you're in that headspace, you don't try to connect the dots and make sure your facts are all straight.
That's right.
And your dots are all in a row. Logan, on the other hand, would do that. But because Roman is trying so hard to achieve that dream, and that's all he's thinking about, if lying ever came up and he recognized it as lying, yeah, he'd be like, I don't think that's very smart. Because that's after SVS, right?
Yes, I think, yes.
That's after SVS. So he's already in a... I mean, we'll get to SVS, but the fact that in SVS, in SVS, we gotta like, I'm bringing up things we talked about before, and I realize the audience hasn't caught up on this. So the idea in SVS, Roman is very connected to what Janus wants, and Janus is trying to pull him a certain direction by flattery and by like trying to kind of get in his head. So once Roman realizes that Janus is using him that way and is trying to bring that motivation to Thomas to go to the callback and be that thing, it makes him very uncomfortable and nervous, because at that point Roman still sees Janus as a villain. I'm not saying Janus is wrong. I think Janus is completely in the right, for one. We'll get there. But because Roman only views Janus as the villain, and he recognizes that what he wants is directly in line with what the villain said, he changes his mindset and tries to push away from lying. So in flirting with social anxiety, if he notices he's lying, go away. But if he doesn't, and he thinks he's just kind of like bending the truth to get to that goal that he wants, that's not necessarily lying in his head. So like it works out. It's not as bad.
Hypocritical though, a little bit.
It's extremely hypocritical.
Also, to bring it back one more time to an episode that we talked about already before we get back to SBS, I realized moving on, Roman was also the one who was trying to get Thomas to lie about the butt dialing. So yeah, Roman does try to get Thomas to lie a lot before a certain point.
And I think it's part of what's bringing Roman down right now, because he's on an arc to like crash. Because he's at a point where he's realizing that he lies more than he wants. And because he's trying to be that good person and he's looking to Patton as that shining star to get us out. I mean, after putting others first, I mean, I don't know if he feels that way about Patton anymore.
I don't know.
Because I think at the end of working through Intrusive Thoughts, that end card was a little snooty towards Patton.
I don't remember specifically, but like, I'll take your word for it.
There's definitely a moment, because I always love seeing like the microaggressions and the micro faces that Thomas makes, because there's a moment where Roman kind of looks at Patton and kind of like adjusts and then just kind of like smiles, but when he looks at Patton, he's like judging.
It would make sense given the fact that Patton also is on the path of accepting Janus. Which I mean, now, which at that point in the series, which we'll get into in a few minutes, is like Roman's new #1 enemy.
Yeah, think about it. That shining light that we were talking about, how he's looking at Patton as his dad, this figure in his life that's like his guiding point almost, and Thomas, both of them are starting to go towards the villain. We're doomed. We're
That's
doomed.
so sad.
We're fucking doomed.
Dang.
That's why he lividly hates Janus and putting up his first.
Oh my god. And there's another reason we'll get to. But
he's not letting himself understand the other perspective. Yeah. He's just getting pissed that he's not right.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be right here. He wants to be the hero.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get to that in a second, because we still need to talk about SBS. We're talking about putting on this first. There's so much to say. But
we're literally going everywhere.
We're jumping all higgledy-piggledy now. We're going everywhere.
It's just Roman, man. Yeah.
The other thing we're going to say about SBS is, one, it is the turning point for his dislike of Janus. Because as we see next episode, he goes from Amy dying, first of all. You okay?
Yeah, I'm getting water, don't mind.
Okay. We go from SBS where Janus is winning Roman over with flattery for the majority of the episode to, at the end of that, him going against Janus, and then going into putting others first, him having this very strong hatred for him. So it's a real quick shift from being sort of iffy on Janus for a while to suddenly going up and being flattered to suddenly having such a strong negative opinion towards him.
I wouldn't even say he was iffy. I mean, I guess he was iffy to an extent, but just he really started to realize how much he played into Janus. Yeah.
I only say iffy because he didn't approve of his methods the whole time, but also hypocritically kind of did, but also the fact that he was flattered by Janus and was sort of on his side during SBS, even if somebody that I didn't like was saying really flattering things to me, I wouldn't accept it. I wouldn't be playing into it.
But that's the thing. He doesn't recognize he doesn't really like Janus, because even in Can Lying Be Good, there's a moment where Janus flatters him and he goes,
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
He flatters him throughout. He's on Janus' side more or less for a chunk.
But that's the thing. When he realizes that, there's actually a moment where he goes, "Don't try to flatter me, Snake," and putting.
Oh, that's right.
Whoa.
We're still not done with SBS. We need to. The other thing about SBS, we keep merging into putting this first, which is fair because it's all one connected episode.
Yeah.
So, but I keep noticing that. I'm like, no, wait, I still have another note here. I'm Kermit the Frog apparently.
Okay, Logan the Frog. Logan the Kermit Frog.
Logan the what?
Frog Kermit Logan. Frog and Kermit Frog Logan.
Amy, are you glitching? What happened to your life just there?
I am always glitching.
Hi ho, Logan v. Sanders here. Logan v. Sanders.
Sanders the Frog, Logan.
Logan the Side here. I guess that would be Logan the Side. I need to stop doing a Kermit voice before I trigger myself. Anyways, I have phobias. Anyways, the last thing with SBS. I'm always the one to start the Kermit impression, and I'm always the one who's like, I need to stop. Why am I not stopping? The third thing about SBS, oh my god, this is going to be an interesting episode, is that it's another instance of Roman coping with comedy. There's the joke about the Freudian slip, where, what is it specifically? Do you remember exactly what the joke was?
I've been trying to think of it.
It was something about him being lonely. The one and lonely is what he says. You're Roman. The one and lonely. Oh, Freudian slip. So it's masking that gross feeling with a joke.
Yeah, I was going to say, fun fact, Freudian slip is when you're actually dealing with some shit and then you go through accidentally saying some more than you should about something that it's that type of thing. That's what a Freudian slip is. So he's right. That is a Freudian slip. But I don't think it was unintentional.
Well, no. I think he wants to joke that it's unintentional, but I think it was him self-deprecating and trying to find a way to make it seem like he wasn't doing that.
That insecurity
Which mood. But yeah, now we can go on to putting others first. What'd you say?
You said which, and then I went, which is?
Did I say which?
Yeah, which is.
I already forget everything I said.
No, you were going which is a product of blah, blah, blah. But because you said which is, I went, which is? because that's a Thomas Sanders vine.
Oh. I'm lost. Anyways, I don't know where I am. I think I'm devolving.
I got you. So, in Putting Others First, as we've said, you can see that full hatred for Janus, and you can see that he's starting to register that his normal mindset isn't going to work if you're going to defeat Janus, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. So, that sudden intense judgment towards lying.
And also. Sorry?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, this is another thing, because we talked earlier about the fact that Roman is quite close to Virgil due to sharing that insecurity feeling, and feeling like he's seeing himself in Virgil a lot due to those insecurities. And I think for the exact same reason that he is close to Virgil is the same reason that he's so angry at Janus right now. Because I think as we've discussed, Roman has, for a long time, had, these inclinations of trying to get Thomas to lie in certain instances. And we've seen through SVS that he doesn't want to do that now because he knows that Thomas wants to be more honest. And he doesn't want to get things through deceitful means. So I think that Roman sees in Janus his own, like slightly dark desire to lie his way out of situations. And now that he's so against that, he's starting to funnel that hatred into Janus as to, what he doesn't like about himself is this person's whole deal. And I think that is why he really, because I feel like he turned such a quick corner with Janus, too. I know there's a lot of reasons why he's angry at Janus right now, but, I feel like that is a big contributor as to why, he went from, disapproving to this sudden, I am furious with your existence.
I would use the word scare. It really scared him.
Oh, yeah. No, it's frightening. It's really unsettling to see in someone else, the thing you don't like about yourself. I think we've talked about that either on this podcast, or I know we've talked about it outside of the podcast, of seeing yourself in characters and that discomfort that you feel when you see too much of a part of you that you don't like in a character. You're shaking so furiously, and I know you're thinking of Patton.
I'm thinking of multiple instances where that, Pearl.
That was the next one I thought of too.
Massive character for me for a while. I was sitting there I want to throw up. Every time Pearl would just be well, we need to do it this way. I'm
yeah. What was one that I didn't? I know there was one. I think in Steven Universe or some other show that I had that was like that, but I completely forgot who it was.
It wasn't Amethyst, was it?
No, I don't think so. Me and Amethyst are quite different. It might have been Lapis. It might have been Lapis. Because I have some things against Lapis in general.
That's fair.
And I've definitely seen some similarities between us two. Oh my god, I'm wearing blue! Ah, Lapis! Anyways, seeing that side of you that you don't like in someone else can lead you to potentially take that out on them because it's reminding you of who you don't want to be. And especially when the other sides are accepting him now, as happens at the end of this episode, that's an intense shift.
Intense. It's very scary for him. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to talk about his when the new episode does come out. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to be patient for it, but when it does come out, I feel like that's going to go either to a peak or continue to really show in Roman's character. I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle that is going to get talked about, and I'm really excited about it because I think it works well with that's really cool.
Also, the last thing of this episode is that it again plays into that inferiority and that insecurity that we've built up with Roman, because now he's seeing the others accepting, like we said before, accepting the one person who is everything he doesn't want to be, the person who he sees as the villain, and he's seeing the two people whose opinion matters to him maybe most, accepting someone that is everything he's trying not to be, everything that he sees as evil now. And, he now is comparing himself and being you guys want to accept him? I thought I was your hero.
And,
yeah, I dropped that line.
You did, and it hurts.
I know.
It hurts. I think, but that's the thing, he's trying to keep that much. He's so, I don't, I'm gonna say it this way.
Mm-hmm.
As someone, I don't know if any of you listening or you Tech Real have ever experienced feeling like someone you looked up to so hard is just a terrible person.
I've gotten scares. I don't know if I can't think of a specific time where it's like actually followed through. Because there was a scare for, I'm a Game Grumps fan, and those Game Grumps fans will know there was a bit of a scare with Dan for a little bit, but it turned out to be completely fine. But that was the closest, because that was one like person that I look up to, like in YouTubedom, and like not that he's like an idol really, but like he's just someone who I really hold in high regard in YouTube. So there's that, and the idea that he might not have been good, I was like, oh god, that's terrifying, because I already like him so much. Like, how could that be? Right.
I'm just gonna quickly wrap this up by saying, I was a fan of Colleen Ballinger. We were too, and watching all this go down has been really hard, and it like immediately puts you kind of in a place where you have trouble trusting other people as hard, because especially with Colleen, her content was so bright and full of love and so full of support for other people, and just very like, I mean, I wanted to be her. I mean, I talk about how like Steve was technically inspired by Miranda to an extent, my character, because that's a whole thing. But just, I say that because I'm connecting it to the idea of Roman watching the two people that he feels like garners the most support for him.
Yeah.
Do something bad like that. And obviously, like, I don't agree that it's bad.
Oh, yeah, no.
But, like, he sees it as bad, and I think it's getting to a point where he's almost driving himself crazy trying to stay the hero. And so he's so against Janus right now. Like, if I were playing Roman, he's so against Janus right now that there's not a damn thing that Janus could do that. There's not a thing he could do.
Like, to him, everyone betrayed him for Janus. Not everyone, but like everyone in that instance did.
The only one who's even remotely on his side is Virgil.
Virgil, yeah.
Because Virgil is also intensely against Janus. We don't know why, but we know that he is. So
and I think Logan's a bit of a mediator between the two. Like, I can see Logan. I don't know if we've seen enough of, like... We haven't seen a lot of Logan being specifically against Janus, because usually Janus is throwing Logan aside to be him. But, like, I could see... I think Logan is basically, like, a little bit in between, because I think he can see the merit while also agreeing that it's not something that should be held as a priority to be super deceitful.
But because Logan gets brushed to the side and ignored, Roman doesn't give a shit. And Roman doesn't agree with Logan most of the time anyway. He just, that happens, and he's just ignoring it.
Man, stop brushing him aside.
We talked about that last time, though.
Maybe there's a reason I don't like Roman as much as the other sides, because not only is his biggest enemy my boy, but he also shuns and ignores my boy. My two boys.
Well.
Anger.
So with that being said, because we need to wrap this up pretty soon. How has this character impacted your life?
I just want to say,
because like,
I was just gonna say, as you asked that question, I started scrolling down in the notes to see where I wrote the notes on this part, and then I remembered I didn't. So.
We were both gonna have to make it up. But I think I will say you just basically said that you don't like Roman very much.
Yeah, no. I definitely do have a path of how I like how Roman I think reflects in my life, because I think, you know, obviously we both relate in this way. We're both, you know, creators in some way or another. Obviously not as big to the extent as some, but I definitely feel Roman very much in Am I Original, especially. I remember, because I know in, you know, my journey through trying to be a creator, trying to be a YouTuber for the longest time, I've dealt with a lot of issue in regards to, like, what to make. Like, what I should be making. Because, like, it feels like, you know, obviously the answer is make what you want to make. But it's so easy to get caught up in what you should be making, what people are looking for, what, you know, what makes sense to make, and trying to be different. And I know there's so many times where I have like struggled because I'm like, what do I make? What is my niche? How do I find what I'm supposed to be making? What makes sense? Like, in addition to like someone who struggles with just motivation in general. So like I definitely felt Roman in that episode of just like struggling to like having all the ideas and all the things you want to do, but also somewhat gatekeeping yourself and being like, we need to find what is the perfect one to be doing, what makes the most sense. So in that way, I think like very much like Roman. And again, in similar to Patton, as we've talked about, the similarity of coping with comedy. I am also someone who is not unfamiliar with the self-deprecating jokes. I'm trying to get off of it. I'm not succeeding in getting off of it, but I'm attempting.
Doing your best.
I'm doing my best. I'm trying. No, but Insecurity is definitely a good chunk of me as well. I think it's hard to see yourself in a good light sometimes. It really is. And it's easy to put yourself down with jokes and not even realize that you're like putting yourself really hardly down. I'm not
implying anything here. I'm going to say it that way. Okay. But I'm wondering if, we talked about some characters being like uncomfortable to look at because you see a lot of yourself in them. Would you in any way say that about Roman? Or as I say, I'm not implying anything here. I'm just saying, how do you feel about that question?
It's very possible. Because given given the fact that up until now I wasn't even as aware of his insecurity situation as much as I am now. There might be a slight angle of that. I think in terms of my like slight distaste for Roman, I think it does play more into the fact that like it plays more into the way he handles it, his like most of the time, because like with his superiority complex, as we've mentioned, he's very prone to like boasting himself up and putting down others, and I don't usually love that in characters typically. There are very few characters, I think, not very few, but there are lesser, like, there's different approaches to that same concept that I think I'm more a fan of. Like Sherlock is someone who very much thinks himself important, puts down others, but that's more in, like, the Logan sense of, like, feeling like you're more important than, like, you're so important, like, everyone else is not. And I feel like that type of characterization is something I latch on to more than, like, trying to be like, I'm amazing. Like, I like the more subtle of, like, I know I'm better than people. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I attract more to those characters a little bit. What Logan. That says about me, who knows? But,
because you're a Logan Kenny is what it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that, like, my love of another show, the show You, I think that might be much more fueled by Logan and just, like, the processes of which the main character, like, handles situations and his feelings on certain things, as opposed to what is probably also the Remus Kinney energy of that series being absolutely bat crap crazy. But, anyways, back to Roman. Insecurity. That is definitely a big piece.
That's fair.
I think that's the most I have to say with Roman. Oh, to answer your question fully, it might be an aspect. It honestly might be. I'd have to look at it more and, like, watch through some more Roman and see what I feel as it comes up. It's gonna give me something to think about as I rewatch and look through Roman again. Because it's funny, because something I will also say is that I always like Roman a bit more than I remember. Roman is a weird... I feel like there are certain characters like that, but Roman stands above among... there's so many words. He stands above the rest in the fact that every time... I don't know what you just said at all. That was just noise. Oh, okay, cool.
It was a reference to Mr. Epic Man, don't mind me.
Oh. But, no, Roman, I think, stands above everyone else in the fact that, like, I always think he's my least favorite side, and, I mean, I think he kind of is. But, like, no offense to the Roman fans out there. I just think he's just not my favorite. But, funnily enough, I say that, and then every time he's on screen, I'm like, ha! I like this guy. He's funny. He's a good vibe. And then I go, and I stop watching it, and I'm like, Roman. Ugh. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, honestly, I feel the same way about myself. Anyways, Sorry, I just came up organically. Oh, organic? Crofter's organic?
I'm rolling my eyes for those of you listening over the audio.
Anyways, what is your connection to Roman?
In a similar way, Roman has always given me kind of a standoffish energy because I am a Logan Kenny also. And with that Logan Kenny energy, if anyone is just trying to get through however they can and not really thinking about what they're doing, it drives me nuts. It drives me insane. And I've had some people in my life who I've worked directly with, like there have been people in my past that I've been like a team with, like duo team, where the other person just will not work with me logically. And it drives me insane. Like I could get into examples. I won't, but Roman just immediately gave me a standoffish, like I'm going to punch him in the face. Not because like Roman Kinney energy people not saying that I just immediately punch you in the face, but just the mindset of like, I have trouble if someone's not just directly thinking of it from like a logical perspective.
Yeah.
But I also know that character is pivotal to the series, and talking about it like this is really, really cool because I want to work to understand those people instead of just immediately resorting to violence like I just did. But
I think we both have that issue of always resorting to violence. That might be another connection to Roman to some extent because we're always just ready to pull out a sword and stab our problems.
I honestly like reflected now, the more that I watch Sandersides and the more I watch Roman's arc, I feel like I understand people who are more Roman-minded better than I would have. But that's really the biggest connection in my life. I don't really think I see a lot of myself in Roman outside of the creator mindset of consistently wanting to make things and consistently wanting to act and wanting to do that type of art. So I really don't think I have much other connection besides that. And I guess the violence piece, that's also
violence piece. Yeah. Also, before we wrap up, this is funny because I see on our notes that we always have anything else, and usually it's not, but I actually do think I have something interesting that I just thought of.
Oh my gosh.
I know, and I don't know if it's anything, but like, so we've talked about, I almost said Logan. We've talked about Roman's insecurities. We've talked about his whole deal with, the superiority complex and boasting himself up and putting others down as sort of, and even the coping with comedy. These are all like defenses as to like shield his own insecurities.
Right.
And his symbol is a shield. Obviously that's also like a princely thing, but like the idea of like his symbol being a shield as a reflection of him using certain tactics to sort of protect, from his own insecurities and like, to sort of block things out.
Listen, Thomas Sanders, if you're listening to this podcast, I want to know. I want to know if that's true.
It also is.
Awesome.
It also is telling that split side of creativity between Roman and Remus. His is a shield, and Remus's sign is a sword. And it's just something I remember. I just realized I never really put that together specifically, but yeah.
Remus is just he's
ready to attack.
I'm about to make a really dirty joke, and I should not do that.
What is it? Tell me. Say it now.
Oh God, I'm so sorry, everybody.
This is the note we're ending on. You better make it good.
He's just thrusting himself into every situation.
Dear Lord.
It's fine.
Well, on that note, I hope y'all enjoyed today's episode.
The next episode is going to be a Q&A. So we're going to be putting out about, if you have questions about the previous few episodes, because I know we've been doing a lot of character study. Yeah. If you have questions for us about any of the episodes we've done, or just questions regarding Sandersides and our opinions on it in general, please feel free to ask those questions.
Yeah, send them over any way you can.
That's coming.
It is.
That's coming. The next episode is a Q&A episode.
It is.
So
I like Q&As.
We have to run off. We have to go do it. We have things we have to do. But hey, thank you so much for listening to this podcast and taking the time to analyze the Sash of Insecurity.
Oh my God.
I hope y'all have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.